Hello, Tara Diana. How are you?
Hello, Joanna. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am good. You go by Tara, right?
I do.
Yes. For my listeners, a little bit of a background. Tara and I go back, I counted probably 18 years.
Very long time.
Long time ago, you were the person who pushed me into this thing that has its own legs now. And you suggested that I go and do psychic readings at your fair. I remember distinctly, I said, what the hell am I going to do there? And she says, well, you're a medium. You said you're a medium. I'm like, I'm not. And you're like, Joanna, just stop it.
Just do it. It's a Nike thing.
And yeah, the rest is history. Then we went our own ways and now we're coming back. I find it fascinating because we had to go and do our own thing. We all went through a lot of stuff. Now we're converging together. Something tells me this is happening for a reason. I don't know what the reason is, but I know for me, I am likely to gain something from you, like to get an understanding because we're learning from each other. That's what I got.
Absolutely.
So I'm curious to see what that will be because the more I learn, the more we expand. So today we're going to just talk about, I was given few subjects. I'm going to throw them at you. They're light, light. Yesterday, I think I texted you or earlier this morning, I said, I got the statement, evolution versus revolution.
Right.
I actually had to look it up because these words are meaningful. Revolution is a very fast, dramatic change. And evolution is actually the opposite.
Right.
What I'm getting right now is that we're actually both. Can we talk about that?
We've been in that evolution stage for a significantly long period of time. That evolution, our growing, our learning, these little things. I feel like all of a sudden, the way things have shifted changes, how people come back into your life. That's the revolution. We are about to hit a point where it's level up or get out. It is literally level up or get out. And for real, I am not afraid of leveling up. I have no fear of revolution. I actually like the word. That resonates. I don't know about you, girlfriend, but it resonates with me. Let's go. Let's do it. The world needs the leveling up in a way we can't even describe.
You're describing exactly what I got when I tuned in, everything going. Like we've been in this bubble and now the bubble is like barely gonna expand.
It's big. I don't know how you felt about the whole 2000 being a big deal. 2012 was a big deal. Every couple of years, someone throws something out there that says, hey, this is a big deal energetically. I didn't feel any of those things. I was like with Prince, partying like it's 1999. When 2000 came, I was like, okay, we didn't implode. I didn't feel an energy shift that was overwhelming. I didn't feel like we needed to get on the white horses and ride with our flags. I didn't feel that in 2012 when everyone was like, oh, we're all about to dip here. We're all about to.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that either. I watched everyone get crazy. It was like mob mentality. Someone said, this is what's going to happen. And everyone took it and kind of dived into it. I was left behind going, I'm still just evolving the way I was beforehand. There is no massive shift happening for me. This energy, it's not about a year. It's about a season right now. This is the time, like you said, that we are about to, we're not imploding. Explode. Like we are, like you said, that bubble is about to burst. What you put out there is going to be different for every person. So when we talk about evolution, yeah, we did. We evolved. You and I evolved in our own ways, came back. Hey, how's it going? What's you doing now? Well, now back on that level. But revolution, I like that. You need to use that word and put it on a bumper sticker. We are being revolutionized. If you want to be, though.
Right. That's the key point. So it's interesting because you're talking, here's what I'm perceiving. I'm not saying that's truth, but here's what I'm perceiving. Because you're saying, I didn't feel the jumps that were supposed to happen. And I'm going, yeah, that's because you've been doing the work all along. It had less of a jarring effect on you because you were already in the integration of it, which is what growth is. And you are in the spiritual sense. So you're obviously growing spiritually. Other people weren't doing the work, or it was just wasn't their time. And all of a sudden the shift of frequency made them go, Does that make sense?
That makes absolute sense. And it brings into my mind that those people that had that impact, they are in that crosshairs, right? They need that. And can I just say this? And I'm going to trigger someone because normally it's me triggered out, but I'm going to
It's Triggerville here.
But here's the thing. Those people that had to take that, let's just go back to 2012 and had to take that and make it huge. No judgment. That's your journey. That's what you do. But there is something about having to make these massive big deals out of these energy shifts. And like you said, their work was in that kind of crosshairs. They hadn't hit a certain point. Remember, mediumship for me personally is an actual innate natural state of being. I am not I didn't pop into this later in my years. I've done this since I was 3 years old. So like you said, I love
The normal.
long time. These people needed to latch on to the 2012 energy and make it burst and ride it and talk about it and draw people to it with them and create courses based on it and new calendars and all these things. That's their journey, but it took away from what was happening in my perception. And what's happening is this great opportunity to realign and reconnect. But it wasn't explosive like we feel the energy right now. This wasn't an explosive thing. Do you notice that we don't have anything that we are hyper-focused on when you and I are talking about this explosive kind of energy that's happening? We're not attaching it to a year. We're not attaching it to a date.
Oh, yeah.
To a season. There's nothing there that we are attaching it to. It's just the energy. We are being able to recognize the energy for what it is. We don't need someone to tell us that the Mayan calendar has slid. We need someone to tell us that the world's about to come to the end when we head into the 2000s. We don't need any of that. Why? Because we are energetically aligned to spirit.
Right.
Not just the universe. Spirit.
Right.
Different feel to that.
So as you're talking, I'm getting the word revolution again, because apparently when things come to head and they have to change really fast, we need to find new ways of adapting. In order to find new ways of adapting, we have to either create new ways of adapting or recognize they've always been there, but we were not able to see it.
Truth.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So for you and I, we may not have had this jarring effect, but for those people, those situations acted almost like a catalyst, right? And what I'm getting here is sometimes you have to get hit over the head with a 2x4 in order to quote unquote get the lesson.
And not everyone has that same length of 2x4, if you will.
Of course, it varies.
So we all do it so differently. And spirit loves that because it creates that sense of, think of it like a ladder. Some of us can go up here and we're going to do all the work right here and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be powerful. And we don't have to perceive anything extra. This is where we are. Then those of us that continue to level up, because remember, everyone's a psychic and a medium does not mean that everyone is
exactly
any particular level. Those of us that level up a little bit further, we're given more perception. We are able to see further and we can make a big deal out of it, or we can say, hey, we get the harmony here. We get the balance here. So now we're going to embody that balance. When we do that, we are able to expand that out through our teachings, our channelings, right? We both channel. So we are able to do that without making this into something so overpowering that people are being into it for the wrong reasons.
It's almost like what I hear you're saying is what we're doing, it's just a natural part of who we are. We're just being ourselves.
Amen. Hallelujah.
That's what came through. Yeah.
Power to you.
In your case, you were blessed with the knowing of all of that at a young age. As you know, I didn't. So we have different struggles, but at the end of the day, we have the same recognition, which kind of leads to the other topics. we have the same recognition, which is basically we all come from source.
Mm-hmm.
Source is within us.
Truth.
Like it or not. If you deny it, does not mean you're not part of source. You're still part of source.
That is the truth, right? If you can deny it, doesn't change it.
I know. Yeah. However, what it does do, it prevents us from taking full advantage of that connection. Now, the word advantage may trigger somebody, but it's not. Like if you have apple trees, you might as well get the apples. Well, that's why you have an apple tree. The apple tree is not going to be mad for sharing apples with you. That's what it's for. I love that.
It's an angry apple tree in someone's backyard being, what are you doing? Right? No lie detected.
The apple says, you're not worthy of eating me. What? The whole idea of worthiness. Okay. Let's talk about it.
Worthiness. Yeah.
Let's talk about it. What?
Okay, so this is one of those words right now that's super empowering. And it really
Mhm.
is. I'm very much about paying attention to what becomes in the spiritual communities fad words. I just did a whole article on the word soulmate because I'm like, we need to stop using that word of like love life and etc. But worthiness is a word that will never go away and will never lose its power. You cannot use that word so much so that all of a sudden it doesn't have the same meaning. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, each one of us is worthy. Just it's just a hard stop right there. We are worthy.
Period.
Have to go into why are we worthy? What is it about us? Because we're all unique and we're all different, but we are all worthy. And that's where it's like a stop. Okay. So if you can embody that worthiness,
Amen,
and
sister.
accept that, right? Then you are able to say, okay, I'm worthy. And you continue that expansion. You and I have talked about expanding, right? You never stop growing and developing in any capacity. Really, you just don't. Even if you're in the lowest state of being, the lowest vibe you hit, you are still growing and developing. You may not see it, you may not understand it, but it's still there. So when people are talking about self-love, self-worth, I love those conversations. I do feel that there is a little bit of an agenda going on with people when, oh, come to me about, and learn how to self-love yourself. There's an agenda there, but in true essence of the word worthiness, it literally is, I am.
Recognition of who you are right there.
Right. And it shows you when you can step into that power, it shows you like when you say, I am worthy and you own it, you're saying it with like, your full chest. You're saying that you literally are owning it. And then spirit's looking down and saying, yeah, you are. Okay. Where are we going with this? What tools can I give you so that you can continue to prosper in abundance? And again, abundance is another word that's got all sorts of,
different connotations.
Right.
Yeah.
And then usually it goes with
money. Yes. Yeah.
Correct. And I say to people, hey, you want to be abundant in all. Don't just narrow it down to being like abundant in finance. Be abundant in all. But again, to get that abundance, you got to be worthy. You got to be worthy. And what does that mean? There's the key. You have to do that worthiness, period. What are your thoughts?
Exactly the same. And here's the question they want me to throw out. Since it's really so simple, all you have to do is just accept you're worthy. No end but it's like asking God, why do you exist? I want to. I want to. I do. So since it's that simple, which means everyone can do it, why don't we? My heart. Here's the can of worms. Why is it so hard? Because it's so pervasive in humanity's DNA, the whole idea of unworthiness. It's like an epidemic.
Okay.
I said the bad words. I'll realize that word.
No. I hit my hand so hard, I woke up the dog over there. Here it is. And again, I have a whole series on Tara's triggers. So here it is. We are literally trained from the time we are born to feel that we are unworthy, to feel that working on ourselves is selfish. To put ourselves first is selfish. We should be looking after everything else. We should be looking at getting family, having a family, getting a good career, getting our schooling in, all those things. We are taught, and then you go above and beyond that to things like organized religion, which they need you low. No matter how much you feel you're being embodied by the Holy Spirit and all that jazz. And again, This is just my humble opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't judge anyone for the God of their choosing. But I do absolutely feel that the core essence of organized religion is based in power and greed and money.
Mm-hmm.
Keep control of the minions. Free will choice is not something talked about in any kind of organized religion. It is a control. You do what we say, otherwise God will smite you.
Mm-hmm.
Words smite
Mm-hmm.
you. Anyway, God will do something to you. That's
Yeah.
not the God of my choosing. That is also not the God that I've been able to communicate with. My God, which really is everyone's God, but my God says, hey girl, I see you. Good work today. Where are you going next? Because I got a
Mm-hmm.
little bit something for you. And we move forward. It's progressive. So we are taught to be unworthy, consider ourselves unworthy, to consider ourselves low vibrational beings from the get-go. Doesn't mean we're not good people. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't see ourselves as good people. It just means that if we see ourselves as empowered, passionate, purposeful, then we don't need all the dictating that's been done to us.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need people talking down to us or trying to convince us otherwise because we stand in our power. Doesn't mean we will not have obstacles and challenges, trials and tribulations. Doesn't mean we won't feel trepidation and all the emotion. It just means that we are able to move through them
Mm-hmm.
without the help of someone who wants to keep us low.
So here's a question for us. I feel like we're getting into some tricky territories. That's okay.
I'm good with that.
So am I. What is the benefit of keeping someone low?
Again, for me, sweetie, it is control.
Mm-hmm. Who does ultimately control get someone?
It's an emotion. It's a feeling. I don't have to work on me because I'm working on them.
You know what I just,
Go ahead.
no, it's an addiction.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel it. I
It's an
feel
addiction.
if I'm keeping other people, oh, I don't have to work on myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can even be a defense mechanism in a lot of ways.
Oh, it could be so many things, but it's
Right.
the feeling I'm getting, like it's addictive. It's like a drug that feels really good and you can't stop it. Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel that. For real, I feel that people
Yeah.
start to vibe on it. Hence why things like churches become massive. There's lots of good to having
Mm-hmm.
community,
Absolutely.
community seeding you.
Absolutely.
What is it that is embracing and keeping people in some kind of fear base?
Mm-hmm.
That's an addictive state.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to feel I'm empowering to them. In my personal opinion, Joanna, the fact that someone or someone's, because now it's a bigger picture,
Mm-hmm.
just one person, but they want that continuous accolade that they are something special,
Mm-hmm.
right? That they hold a key.
Which means what you just said, they want to feel special. Is that what you said?
They want to feel special.
They themselves don't feel worthy.
Exactly. You just nailed it.
So we have a massive issue around unworthiness.
Massive.
So all we have to do is just accept that we are worthy. But then we have to look at all the different layers that tells us that we're not. And that leads me to my next point. Karma. What do you think karma is?
You know,
Light questions, eh?
I like these because it gets us a little bit down and dirty. So karma. Karma is one of those things. I have a very, very good friend that I've been just a little bit longer in the spiritual community with her than I have with you. She said the saying years ago, and I get goosebumps, and I've used it all over the place. It's good come to me, good go through me.
Mm-hmm.
The perception of that for me personally was that I do good, I receive good. I'm a good person, good things come to me. So the idea of karma in terms of the way it actually is most frequently used is a very negative state.
Correct. Punitive.
Karma's coming back to you. And it's like one of those sayings now.
Karma is a bitch.
If you are sitting in a space and
I wanted to say, yeah, and she's also very sexy.
but if you are sitting in a space, Joanna, where you are wishing karma on someone that's done something that has affected you in a negative manner. And this is what I try to teach my followers, when they get all caught up in this kind of stuff, is that, hey, boo, if you're sitting there wishing karma on someone else, oh, karma's going to get her tenfold. Oh, karma's coming for her. Are you not sitting in the same negativity as the person that did whatever they did that's causing you to think you need to send negative karma out? I don't love it. I don't love the negativity associated with it. And as a matter of fact, I don't actually use the word karma hardly at all. I do have this beautiful picture that looks so pretty over here that says karma on it, but I don't use that word because to me, I'd rather say, hey, good come to me, good go through me. Right? Bring me the good stuff, babies, because I'm giving out the good stuff. That is an energetic exchange that I'm all in for.
And what I was getting is that most humans have a huge misunderstanding of what karma really is.
Truth.
And according to what I'm getting, they're all about metaphors, and I love them because they're so funny. It's like, if you're going to continue planting apple seeds, you're going to experience a tree with an apple. If you want a pear tree, if you continue to seed apple trees, you're not going to get any pears. So in order for you to have a pear experience, you have to change what you're seeding.
Truth.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, hardly.
So
Lie in there.
it's basically at the very basic level. It is nothing more, nothing less than the exchange of energy.
Does it not fascinate you how hard people make this out to be?
Ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And it's sad. I'm not going to say that. There is this element of sadness when I'm listening to you speak and they're truths. There are truths. May not be everyone's truths. But, I trust spirit more than I trust almost anything, except for maybe my doggos. But I trust spirit. And spirit has never failed me. Never failed me. So when I'm listening to you talking about apples, I feel like we're going to have to go make apple pie or something after. You've apples so many times, I'm feeling we need an apple pie. But
wait, apples, knowledge. They know what they're doing. Okay, keep going.
They know what they're doing. But when you look at it and you keep it as simple as we're talking about it, when you lay it out in these little tiny points, not these paragraphs, not these books, not these huge lectures, when you bring it down to the simplest form, people can look at that and be like, yeah, I'm worthy, done. Sit with it, embody it, let it come in. What happens is you get people popping up all over the place that are like, but you got to attach this to it. So now you're going to do this with it. And now you're going to go over here with this. And now you got to do that. And all of a sudden it becomes excruciatingly complicated from that simple stage that you just said. And you said it so eloquently and so beautifully. This is it. This is the one point you need to focus on. Just these words. I am worthy. Boom. Heart stop. Okay. But when we attach all the extra stuff to it, that's when I'm like, we just took all that ease away
messed it
from
up.
3 words.
Yeah.
And now we've made it complicated. And then you add all the extra stuff onto it, right? You add the idea that people have to pay astronomical amounts of money to get their worthiness, that they have to, do this upon this upon this. You do something really beautiful. And I'm going to give you a bit of an accolade here.
Oh, thank you.
You did a beautiful breathing exercise at an event back in September. The energy that I didn't participate in that part of it, but I could feel it. I was outside the room. Whoa, it was beautiful, but it was simplistic. It didn't feel like you were trying to complicate it. It didn't feel like you were trying to draw them down a different path. Here we're going here, but maybe you should sidetrack over here. Your authenticity in the work you were doing, I was like, damn, she's found her power. Because I cannot, at this point in my life, I literally will be 53 this month. Which crazy all around.
I know.
But at this point in my life, our teachings that we receive at the level of enlightenment, and I own my enlightenment, so do you, should be simplistic. And what we give out should be simplistic. But people have been so trained in the narrative that it's got to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not hard work, you're not going to get anything out of it.
Yeah.
And
But there has to be an effort, though. When you described, thank you so much, graciously, you gave me accolades. Thank you. I love it, because when I step into it, it's like I've done it 1,000 times or millions of times. So, but anyway, what is it I was going to say? Oh,
effort.
effort. When I was facilitating, it's effort. I am beat after that, but I love it. Effort doesn't mean that it's bad. We have
Hard, though.
or hard. And we also have this idea of work has to somehow automatically imply that it's hard. No, when I facilitate, it's a lot of work. But I love it. There's nothing negative about it.
That's the thing right there. If you are in there and you are growing, you're feeling it, you're empowered in it, you're passionate about it, it has purpose. Those are all my words, right? If you are feeling all those things and you come out and you are exhausted at the end of it, that doesn't mean anything other than you have put in an effort.
Mm-hmm.
Effortlessly doesn't mean you didn't step up to the plate.
Mm-hmm.
Effortlessly means you were in there. You wanted to be there. This was a easy choice for you to walk into that space. Doesn't mean what you did was not work. It just means you had no issue with stepping into that work.
You know, the word that I'm getting, the
What?
word that is coming, and I feel it's apropos. In that moment, I am in no resistance.
No resistance.
No resistance. I am just full on being.
That is how I give messages, right? I don't go up there, when we mentor people in doing different types of modalities, people always say, I want to do it like you, Tora. I had a client yesterday. I want to be like a light switch like you, on and off. And I'm like, trust the process.
Mm-hmm.
Most people can't trust the process, right? They just can't. They need to have these aha moments. I've never needed that. So for me, when you go in, like you just said, you just go in and you're there and it just where you're supposed to be. That is exactly how I feel when I stand on platform and I'm just like, okay, who's here? Who has what to say? I don't judge myself. I don't even judge the people sitting around me. There's no room for judgment. I have no expectations of anyone, including spirit. I just do the work and I'm empowered at the end. I'm usually a little manic at the end because it's a lot of energy. And I know I've been of service. And that's it. That's it. It's that easy because I'm worthy.
Which, as you're talking, you're bringing me back full circle. I have an almost 180-degree different experience from you in terms of trusting this source. I come from the other space where I, to this day, continue to learn how to trust this source. The more I trust it, the easier it gets. But when you talked about a client who says, I want to experience this, and basically what you're saying is just let it go. They first have to feel worthy of receiving it. This is something I still struggle with. When I have, and people are like, what? You? I'm like, yeah, still 1 year later. Like when I don't say this out loud too many times. When I communicate with source and it's so obvious that it's source and we're having a conversation and this frequency is kind of making fun and laughing, I'm like, you're like my buddy.
Yeah.
There is no separation. But I first have to allow myself to experience that. And if I believe that I'm not worthy of it, I can't have that relationship. So right back to square one. A lot of people, I always laugh at this because once they gave me this metaphor, when you go to certain organizations and they say, talk to God, God listens to you, talk to God, he's hearing you all the time. And then you go, hey, God was talking to me the other day. What do you think happens? People say you're crazy. Did you just tell me to talk to him? Or
Well, not so much because that's so true.
say, yeah.
I love that. That's true.
But going back to the idea of feeling worthy, we have to first own it and accept it in order for that relationship to be fully open. It's not that it's not open, it's we're not allowing ourselves to have that experience, right?
That's right. That's your humanness.
Yeah.
That's all the things that you were taught from the time you were born right? I mean, immediately, if you follow a certain type of religion, you're born into sin.
Of course, that's a whole different story.
So then it goes down all these different routes. You're certainly being told who you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to be. So when it comes to the point you're ready to be your authentic self, you're like, I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, bingo, right there. Yeah.
I'm
Who am I supposed to be?
beliefs are.
Yeah.
Who am I?
And I think that's exactly what's happening right now on a massive scale. We're being pushed energetically to a space where we need to be shaken up, and many are. In that process of shaking up, all the old falls away, and we are going, who am I? What is this all about? In that moment, when we're asking the question, we're seeking.
Mm-hmm.
If we're not in a seeking open space, well, then we're just here. We're in a massive space of growth. And the question of who am I? It's a scary question because it implies that you're confused. That who wants to feel confused? Which is
Make yourself feel worse.
where your clients are, my clients are when they're in that space, when they're confused, because that's what they're open for. So even though there's a confusion and it can be a little bit alarming, we're in that space where we can collectively seek to be more.
Yes.
And that's when the change happens. You can't force someone to accept their worthiness.
Of course you cannot, because there's no lesson in that.
Yeah.
You want to talk about metaphors? One of the metaphors I use all the time is that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. In my spiritual work, people will come to me on a consistent basis and be like, I want to grow. I want to become intuitively developed. I'm not talking about becoming a medium. I want to start working on myself. And that all starts from the solar plexus and being intuitively connected and understanding that energy. And they'll come and they'll say this to me, and I will give them all the tools that Spirit has taught me and how I'm empowered. A lot of people will come and say, I want to be you. And I'm like, no, you don't, sister, brother. You don't want to. There's a whole lot going on here. But they see my power. They see that I trust the process and they long for that. And I did the work.
I was just going to say, they're not seeing all the background work that had to take place for you to be in this space. Same with me. And I continue to work.
Because we never stop developing. Spiritual growth never stops. Even if we're not aware of it, it never stops. So I always say to individuals, hey, baby, you don't need to worry about anyone else right now. You need to worry about yourself. And what do you think the first thing they say to me is?
I can't.
It's not my nature. I have to look after everyone else.
You get those clients.
And I say this with a great amount of love and respect.
Absolutely.
I say this next part. It becomes a martyrdom.
Mm-hmm.
They have now defined themselves as a keeper, nurturer, and they are, and it's truth, but they're letting it define them. And they are now saying, I am only worthy of helping others. I am not worthy of helping myself. And will be very, very forthright when I say, if you cannot help yourself, you cannot help others. Even if it's perceived that you are.
Yeah, bingo.
You cannot help others. My cup must runneth full. Right? If I'm giving, if I'm like, oh, here we go, over here, help me. Then I must be able to fill my cup again so that I may be replenished and continue to give. I don't rely on anyone else to fill that cup. I am worthy of knowing me. Therefore, I know what's best for me. That's a big, big thing in the spiritual community.
And what you are mentioning is a key word, which is self-responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I'm responsible for everything else, well, then I don't have to look at that. That's very common. It's nobody's fault. We're trained to be. That's why it's. But at the end of the day, it's exactly what you say. If someone chooses to, and now consciously, once you're aware and how you identify yourself, and you're like, yeah, this is how I identify. Once you're aware, you in that moment have a choice to identify as something different. The key word is choice.
Yeah,
and
baby.
If I become that, what will happen to all of that?
I love
that's the
Joanna.
And that's the big monster in the closet.
For real. Absolutely.
And it brings me to the thing I love working with the most is the shadows. You know, okay, I'm going to stop that. I'm going to back up. Why, in your view, in your opinion, in your experiences, why do you think we're here?
The short answer is to continue to learn.
Mm.
It's evolution. Going back to that word, it is an ascension that is happening. We as souls are continuing growing. I believe in reincarnation. I do not believe we reincarnate back as a cockroach or as a cat.
Yeah.
Human souls, human souls. What I've been told through the channelings that I've done is we are coming back because we are still ascending. We are trying to become a higher, let's use higher vibrational species. The human being is still small in terms of the greater picture.
Mm-hmm.
Why we keep coming back is exactly that. Why the lessons we learn? Because a lot of people will say, how come I have to keep going over this and over this? And 9 times out of 10, it's because you really aren't.
Getting it. Yeah.
Right? You're just trying to move through it.
Yeah.
You want it done and over with. So that's my perception of why we are here.
I love what you're saying. I have a very similar view. And on top of it, I have a view that was presented to me by Source. It's very simple. And it's a little bit jarring to the ego, very jarring because it makes no sense. I believe, according to my source, that we're here to experience. Everything comes second. We're here to experience. What we experience, how we choose to experience. And not only that, but we are also here to love. Because we are love. How we choose to love, that's up to each and every individual. So I believe that we are here to, not to learn how to love, but how to remember how to love. And to remember how to love simply means remembering who we are, because we are love. We are here to remember that we are that which we are seeking, which is unconditional love. How do you feel about that?
I feel that in all ways. And just an observation in terms of where we are as a species is that we are in a tricky time warp where all of a sudden there's this need to go backwards, to take all the growth that's happened, right? And all the acceptance and all these beautiful words that are empowering. And all of a sudden, it's like we're being pushed back, or like someone's sucking me backwards. Now, they're not going to ever suck me backwards because I know what it feels like to be in love, but all the extra that goes with that love. When you can encompass that love energy, doesn't mean I don't have more to do. Doesn't mean I fully understand it all. Just means that I encompass it and I sit in it. I'm not going to get sucked backwards. People who live in fear, who live in dis-ease, they will go with whatever feels like it's going to protect them. And so instead of being progressive at this point in time, because we're actually not, from what I've been given, we are not a progressive being anymore. We've kind of stagnated. We're being sucked back a little bit. People do not feel love the way that Source wants us, needs us even to feel that love for us to be continuing to ascend. We stagnated. I would almost say we hit rock bottom. I'm not saying give up hope, babies. That's
Yeah.
We just did this, and it's not about any one place. It is about
collective.
Yes,
Collective.
the bang, baby.
As you're talking, what's coming through is the whole idea of feeling. In order for us to feel love, we first have to be comfortable with it. Humans have suppressed feeling a lot. That's the divine feminine. What I've been getting in the last few days is that we are beginning to embody more of that extraordinary, powerful divine feminine, and it's massive. It's enormously potent. It's beautiful, but at the same time, it's destructive. That's because in order for there to be more, whatever has been keeping that from happening has to collapse.
Okay, makes sense.
So the divine feminine is all about the feeling. It's all about allowing ourselves to feel. And from my work, and I'm sure from yours too, one of the things that I feel clients are struggling the most is with allowing themselves to feel what they feel without judgments or needing to fix it or trying to do anything about it. And I feel somehow in my puny little head that when we decide to stop resisting what we feel and understand why we feel what we feel, which means we begin to understand the inner story, the moment we see the inner story, we can change our story.
Excellent. Excellent.
Make sense?
Girl done.
Yeah.
Girlfriend.
And everything that we experience is essentially projection of all our inner stories, individually and collectively. So if our stories are based in fear, we will naturally project that out into the world.
Absolutely.
And what the feminine is doing is what I'm getting. It's amplifying all that fear in order to be seen. For example, the United States is very divided, right? We're Canadian, so we can talk about that.
Yeah. As no lie detected.
Yes. There is corruption in the black and white. Here's the reality. It's always been there. It just wasn't in our face. And now the feminine comes in and says, look what you've been hiding from. We have to face it.
And that's what you talked about love, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I said, well, it's all become stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
It's because the feminine came in like a dirty shirt and was like, oh, so we've had enough of this. Let's wake it up. The divine feminine, the divine masculine for me have to blend together.
Mm-hmm.
The masculine energy, as much as I thrive in divine feminine, I carry both of them combined. So I have a balance of that. That doesn't mean everyone has the balance, as you just said. The divine slapping people silly all over the place, and masculine's like, sweet goddess, what is going on over here? Stand your ground, people, stand your ground. I'm just thinking to myself, I keep seeing the divine feminine as a mountain and the divine masculine as a warrior, and they're like looking at each other.
Yeah.
But the balance of it is actually quite beautiful. Sometimes an individual has to go back and look at why the shadow, the will, or the inner work has to be addressed. Why are you so enamored with that? Because once you realize that there is something that you are holding on to that largely serves no purpose anymore, but you are just because it's what you know. Am I wrong? You know, we sit in energy because it's what we know. It may be uncomfortable in thought, but in feeling, it's what we know, and we tend to stay with what's comfortable and what we know. So if you go back to the shadow work, or you go back to the inner child work, or you cutting cords, or whatever it is that you're doing, if you go back to that state, you need to really go back to that state. It's not a quick fix. If you're going to go back there, then do the damn work, friend.
Yeah.
Do the work, because if you want that experience of release so that you can make space for what is really important now. Past is important, but learned. If you want to manipulate that into something more, because it makes you feel, we're always looking, okay, I'm going to say this.
Say it.
We are, as humans, always looking for an excuse for bad behavior. An excuse for bad behavior. We need an excuse to explain why we aren't doing what's for our highest and best. The number one thing people will say to me is, I don't have the money to be better.
That's interesting, because information is free.
I always like, I beg your pardon? I'm sorry? Can you repeat that? Because my little old ears didn't hear what you were saying. How does you not having financial abundance stop you from working on yourself? And that actually is a whole different topic that you and I should really do a deep dive into one day.
So when you say that to the client, do you find that they get triggered? Because there is a recognition that what they're saying actually is not true.
That's right. And when the moment I say that to them, they make that face at me. And I said, baby, just stop for a second.
Yeah.
There are so many tools. I'm going to be honest with you, Joanna, and all the people watching this. I am not a huge fan of Google. Yes, I will Google if my car isn't driving properly, but I will not Google for cutting cords or inner child work because we are inundated with other people's teachings and thought processes. For a lot of people, it is really hard to sort through all of that.
Yeah. It's complicated.
And then down the road, something else comes up. My thing is to really sit with yourself first and then move into that state of, okay, who can I trust? Right? Who can I trust? And there's always communities and people locally. And that's where I say you should start first and then move into the next people. Get a little bit of something. And I'm going to say why I believe this. It's not to stop people from doing their business online. That's not what we're talking about here. I'm talking about people's energy and trusting and how fragile spirituality is for a lot of people. And there is always a hook. There's always a hook. And so if someone's came to me and said, hey, Tara, I need to do some shadow work. I'm like, I'm not your gal. I don't go that way. I go this way. So you know what I'm going to say to you? Go see Joanna Benga. Go see Joanna the healer. Why? Because Joanna specializes in that. That's her energy. And the reason I would do that is because I don't feel those same vibes. I agree with them, but they're not mine to facilitate. They're not mine to experience with someone else. So I find that there's too much information on the. I think that's the goal of what I'm trying to say to you is there's too much information, so it becomes complicated, and that will stop people in their tracks. That will stop people in their tracks.
I wish what I'm going to say next would be as simple as what it sounds, which is I think they gave me a recipe of the simplest way to go about it. At the end of the day, what is it here that we're ready to do? In terms of the healing work, know your mind. Know your mind. How do I get to know my mind? Well, you're not going to find it over there. You got to find it in here. So to know your mind, you have to go within. What? I have to go what's inside? No. Well, sorry, then you don't own yourself. Somebody else owns you.
That's
when you don't, when
it, follow.
It is, but I feel it to be true.
It's not wrong. Just because it's hard for someone else to swallow doesn't mean it's not.
That's right. My belief is that God is essentially a field of information. It's all intelligence.
Love it.
However you want to slice and dice it. And when a person realizes that they actually have the power to change, there's no longer excuse to be looked at. That is a very hard pill to swallow for the ego, because the ego always wants to be right.
Always.
So when these things are challenging the ego protests. And the ego is going to protest as long as it can in order to preserve its identity. But as long as it preserves its identity, you can't change. And your identity is based very much with the framework of what's in your mind. How you identify yourself is not because I say you are Tara. You identify yourself in a certain way. So to identify yourself in a different way, you first have to know how you identify yourself right now. And if you are walking around, not you, but if you're walking around and your identity with you is I am a victim and you don't know it, then you are in that space without doing it.
And that's what I said, sweetie. Energy, but energy. If you don't know what you're sitting in, then you're putting out what you're sitting in. So if you feel that victimhood, if you're a victim, but you're not, walking around saying it, but that's what you're feeling, guess what everyone around you is feeling?
Yeah. Neither of us are saying that someone has not been victimized. It's about, are we choosing to continue being in that space, even though that has happened long time ago?
Are we defined by our experiences in a positive or negative way?
And do we continue to?
And
right?
let that
Yeah.
experience,
Yeah.
if it doesn't serve us, continue to define us.
Yeah.
We're not talking about being a victim of something happening mentally.
No, of course not. Yeah.
The energy that we are
Yeah.
holding.
Yeah.
So I think that was very important to make that very clear. I
Yeah.
also want to say to you that when we are working on ourselves and our energy, we should never be afraid of having to release again or having something you thought you've worked on come back. Never beat yourself up over that. I didn't release properly. I didn't do the work fully. It's not like that.
Layers and layers and lifetimes worth of stuff.
And that's when people come and they're
Yeah.
like, okay, let's do a manifestation and release. And I'll be like, that this release, you're going to have to work on. Like,
Yeah.
time.
It doesn't just magically is taken away from you. Like you've got to now embody whatever you've just released and experience as if you're releasing this, then that means you got to embody something else.
I always say it takes 5 years to get rid of 5 pounds that took 5 minutes to put on. If you want to go with a metaphor, there's a good one for you. Spirituality, in my personal belief, is about empowering yourself.
Mm.
Who? The tools given by a higher source. It doesn't have to be God. It doesn't have to be creator. It doesn't have to be source. It is understanding that there is something out there that wants to see us excel. Put it in layman terms, that wants to see us be our highest and best. For when we are our highest and best, we exude that energy. And highest and best from a place of healthy ego.
Exactly. Yeah.
That is the goal.
I don't know why I want to say it. It's probably going to be triggering, but I'm the trigger Virgo. Never with bad intentions. It's just sometimes when I get things in front of my face, I get a little bit jarred. Oh, human being. I still have an ego. But to your point, we're constantly growing. Have I grown? Yes. But oh my God, the more I grow, the more I think, I know nothing.
It's a race.
It seems, at least in my experience, it seems to be fairly common that when someone is in a spiritual realm, and can do channeling, they almost automatically assume that they're enlightened. There is this falsified ego. More often than not, it is in a spiritual community that the shadow gets suppressed the most. It's almost like I can do all these things and I can heal. How on earth can I be a bad person at the same time? Because you're both black and white. So not facing shadows and thinking that we are somehow enlightened because we can communicate with whatever. No, I just actually had a reminder yesterday. Even Yeshua or Jesus had to face his demons. He was not immune from facing his shadows.
He wasn't immune. Here's the bigger picture, is that just because everyone is a psychic and a medium, one does not mean that we all should be doing the work. For sure. That is a big thing. Why? If everyone is a psychic and a medium, Joanna, why isn't everyone doing the work? Because they haven't done the previous work. Because we have the ability to connect to those on the other side or to higher beings. We are literally just a conduit, a vessel.
I call myself a tool.
That's my vessel, baby. This is why I always talk about body, mind, spirit. Your body be in good form for you to be able to be that vessel. If you're not feeling good, then your vessel is lost. People aren't doing that work, and they are standing on platform and they're giving messages and they're teaching. You know, I don't know how involved you are in spiritual communities. Every person suddenly was coming up and saying they were doing mediumship or they were doing with this. Remember, I've been around a long time.
Yeah.
So sad.
Don't age yourself.
But all of a sudden, we're all running these circles. All of a sudden, I'm going to teach people, or I've got this. I truly believe experience is important when it comes to spiritual work. I truly believe you have to be able to have shown you have that connection. It's not about showcasing. It's about being able to see that these people have a true connection to spirit and are able to channel that energy with the least amount of resistance.
Filters.
Yeah, I'm as pure a channel. I don't have to understand the message. The message isn't for me. I don't internalize it. I also don't interpret it. I just give the message. And every person that was starting to expand their spiritual experiences, which is extremely important, the more enlightened there are, hear me out, the more enlightened people there are, the more the energy shifts around us. But if these people are doing it for all the wrong reasons, finances,
Recognition.
absolutely,
Yeah.
all those things, and just trying to gather people into their space, they're not progressing. And the people that they are bringing into their space are actually lowering their vibration. Right? So it's so important that people recognize that the work is experience.
And it has to be there.
Has to be there.
Has to be there.
To be there. It doesn't mean you have to have 13 years, 20 years, 25 years. It means that you have to have the experience. Just because you pulled some cards for people and someone does not make you.
I have a perfect example, without naming any names, of someone who started work very eagerly, which is wonderful. But unfortunately, the person's lack of experience made them make a choice completely out of their own shadow.
Whoa.
That person was in a position of authority and gave advice to that other person, completely filtered through their shadows. And that person didn't even know it.
We know about that.
And if it was another person, the person of authority could have had legal implications. So sometimes I want to say we can do a lot of damage
I concur.
if we don't understand ourselves, especially if you're being seen as an authority figure. Someone is coming to you for advice. So they're suddenly putting you in a place where they're not at. That's where they're coming to you. They're being open. They're being vulnerable. And they're in a space of getting information. Sometimes they're desperate.
Yeah.
If you give them information that is filtered through your own unconscious limitations and shadows, you might have just given them something that was not for the highest and best.
Truth.
I've had that happen twice in my life. I went to, but 15 years ago, to a lady to do astrology, and it was supposed to be like an astrology thing or numerology. And all of a sudden, it was an hour and a half later. I'm like, I'm supposed to be here in an hour. I hope you're not charging me for an hour and a half because you didn't ask me about it. But I didn't have the mouth to say it then. 2 hours later, I'm thinking, okay, there's something wrong with this picture. And now you're telling me that I should do this, and that. And I'm going, holy shit, you have no idea, woman. You are projecting every single of your shit on me right now, and you don't even know you're doing it. Because I was educated enough to see it, because by that time I was already into the unconscious. And she was basically saying, you need to do this, because if you don't, you're going to end up with me like with cancer. I'm like, you are in a position of authority. You're telling me what you think I should do, not because that's what's best for me, but you're projecting. I was smart enough to understand, and I left her house and I said to my guides, what the fuck was that one for? He said, to know what to never do.
That's powerful, though. And that lesson that you embrace and you run with. Because we see that all the time in spiritual people. How many sessions have I fixed for someone? And what I mean by that, how many sessions has someone given to someone else that has left them far worse off than they were when they went in?
Yeah.
How many? It's countless at this point in my life. Because people do things from the lack of true connection to spirit.
And I'm not saying it from the space of judgment. I'm simply saying, because I'm sure I've done shit like that too, maybe not in this capacity, but I'm sure I've done it. The point we'll make here is, if we're here to do Dharma, we better make sure we don't carry forward our karma. That's what just came through.
Oh, that's so cute. We should make a bumper sticker.
So hence the idea of I believe that the more work we do on ourselves, the more effort we put forth, the more we naturally embody our power. To know yourself is to know who you are. Boom.
And then fill your cup.
And then you can go ahead, share it.
Do you know what came to me?
Oh.
Is when we're talking about hard work. This scenario just came to me. If you are going to run a marathon and you love running, you're going to train for it, right? You're going to train for it. And you're going to love training for it, even if it's hard. Even if you have to get up one morning, you're like, it's raining, I'm not going. Well, I'm going to go because you love it. You love the outcome of it. You love what comes with it. You love it. That's
it.
what doing the work is. You wake up in the morning. It doesn't have to be easy. It just has to be purposeful. You want it.
I love what you're saying. Yeah, because I'm sure you have parts of your work that you're not too crazy about. The whole administrative stuff is like, oh, Jeff,
no, don't talk to me about that.
So I know where my strengths are. I know where my weaknesses are. I'm not going to try to pretend that my weaknesses are wonderful because I'm going to suck at it.
No,
right?
That's
so
acknowledgement.
If you come to me and say you want me to help you with administrative work, I can because I've done it. But I'm telling you, it's like asking a baker to cook you steak. I can do it, but and I would enjoy it because I enjoy this. When I was in a meditation, they said, because of all the elections and the division, decide to love everything and everyone, but you don't have to like it.
Truth. Isn't that it?
They gave me an example. They said, well, you love, sometimes he drives you nuts. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I can totally relate to that. You can love something you don't like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is interesting because I'm an empath, as you are, and I've learned how to control my empathy and how much I feel and how much I'm willing to put out. Usually something like this, like back in 2016 when the first election came up with him, I was embedded in it. I was like, I need to know what's going on and who. And this time around, I've changed quite a bit since then, regardless, in my work and where I sit in my power. I literally said, it's not mine. And at first, I struggled with that for about 5 seconds because I'm part of the collective. Everything I can put energy into. But what I chose to do was, instead of letting this consuming my energy, because realistically, there's very little I can do from where I'm sitting in terms of making a change in the moment. Instead, what I did is I simply said, I'm sending love and light to everyone. And I'm calling it a day. I'm not getting involved. I didn't go on TikTok. I didn't follow any of my creators. I didn't create any posts in regards to anything like that. And I stayed very much in my space and held my own energy. 2 days later, unscathed. I didn't feel drained. I didn't feel like I had to do any kind of miracle work for other people. I didn't feel drained. And so when people came to me and were like, well, I said, yeah, I hear you. I'll witness that for you. But I'm not taking it. And that was empowering to me. And if we could get people to be able to do that, like you said, I don't have to like it. I don't also have to own it. We need to, and we do need, I'm not afraid of power words. The word control doesn't bother me. The word need doesn't bother me. So we need, as the collective, to understand that we are still growing in that love capacity.
Oh, yeah.
That's the highest vibration, is just the highest vibration.
When you were describing your decision, it's so simple, yet so difficult at the same time. You consciously decided to no longer put your energy in something that didn't feel good for you. You chose to feel differently. You made that, it's like, damn it, I don't want to feel that. Okay, shift of focus. Imagine if every human decided to do that. The world would change tomorrow. So simple, yet so easy, right? When you were also describing, I was feeling you as you were making that choice. I'm thinking to myself, oh, her ego isn't protesting too far. She must have done some work. Because in that moment, you chose to be conscious versus unconsciously driven. And you've also identified some stuff around holding on to anger. You chose to no longer do that, whether it was conscious or unconscious. You basically, on some level, said, I choose to no longer feel angry.
You know what, Joanna? I celebrated too when I realized what I'd done.
You should.
When I realized that I had gone to and I had set this up for myself up for success, I'd looked after myself because that's looking after yourself as well. I sat back and I said, well done, sister. Look at you all growing up, right? Taking that lesson and having done the work, realizing, assessing it, it wasn't difficult for me
Mm-hmm.
as I had moved into a new space, accepted the new space,
Mm-hmm.
and just received.
There was something that you also did, whether it was conscious or unconscious, there was some forgiveness that took place.
Mm.
So I don't know if that resonates with you, but it made sense to me. It made sense to me because you didn't say, I deny this is what's happening. You basically said, I'm not going to deny that, but I'm not going to make it mine.
Yes, that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Right? Both of my main assistants are based in the United States. So I held space for them. I let them say a few things to me, but neither one of them came at me with it,
Mm-hmm.
which I also felt was very indicative of the energy I was,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
right? They never
Yeah.
bombarded me with a whole bunch of stuff. I thought, okay, this is what it feels like to be empowered.
And this is also this is like your proof in the pudding that you've changed, because it was just like, okay, boom, this is the new version of me now. So whether you did it with the elections or whether we do it with the person we're mad at, I'm making a little bit of fun of it, so please forgive me, God. I'm going to be mad because I choose to be mad. Okay, knock yourself out. Why do you want to be mad? Does it feel good? Well, no. Well, then marry. Choose not to be angry.
Exactly. And if but it's a process, and we've talked
Oh,
about it
absolutely.
already. So I always say to people, I always talk about water being mental and emotional detoxification.
Right.
It washes away things, right? Especially when you're looking at Indigenous culture or whatnot. Not that I'm Indigenous, but I've worked with a lot of Indigenous bands, etc. And one of the things I say to people is assess what you've got going on here. Just take a moment, assess it, validate it. You feel mad? Okay, feel mad. Now, shift it. Realign, reconnect, kick it to the curb, let it go. Validate it. You have to have your emotion. You have to validate it, but don't sit in it. That's the word define is so powerful to me.
Yeah.
How we let ourselves define things is really key to our movement forward.
No, that's beautiful. Do you believe it's been over an hour and 15 minutes?
Well,
I think we've done quite well.
I think we should be chatting all the time because this was fun.
Yes, yes.
I love this kind of talk.
Mm-hmm.
I love this kind of energy and being able to go back. That's where my heart and soul's at. I love this kind of chit chat.
It feels very effortless. Like there's no managing happening. It's just flowing.
It was hard.
And it didn't feel like work because it's not.
Exactly.
It's funny because whenever I do my videos, I almost always apologize to my viewers saying, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing this. And this makes me feel like I'm home. So thank you, because it's true. It's true.
I love this.
Any last words of wisdom?
Honestly, personal responsibility comes with free will choice.
Mm-hmm.
We said it in different ways, different metaphors. Apparently, we are the metaphor queens. You could bring a horse to water, but you can't drink.
Yeah.
So your personal responsibility is to make the choices that you need.
Yeah.
Not the choices that your mom or your dad or your coworker, boss, or partner, or even necessarily the God of your understanding.
Mm-hmm.
You are valid in who you are in this realm right now. So you make the choices and you reap what you sow.
The rewards.
So if you need to make another change, don't beat yourself up over it.
Yeah.
Make the change.
What I want to add to that is that if you don't want to change, it's okay. God is not going to be mad at you. God is like, hey, it's your project. You do with it what you want. But if you want a different experience, you have to recognize the power you have within your own experience. Doesn't mean that you are responsible for the rain, but you are responsible for how you connect with the rain. Do you put an umbrella? Do you hide? Do you enjoy it? Your experience is your experience, regardless of what's put in front of you.
Absolutely.
This is where your power is. Am I saying if you break your foot, then you shouldn't feel hurt? No, you should feel pain because your body's saying, attention, 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 help. I hope you feel it because you're supposed to feel it. It's a mechanism that is important. But if you're in a situation and you're complaining that it's the wrong situation for you, but you continue to be there, it is for the most part, not always, but for the most part, not because you have to, but because you want to. Now, the ego will scream and will say, I don't want, then why are you in it? Well, I don't have any other choice. Oh, yes, you do. The first choice you have is you can recognize that you do have a choice, even if it's as simple as shifting how you see the situation, shifting how you see yourself within that situation. Because if you see yourself as a victim, then you will continue to be in a situation saying you're stuck and there's nothing you can do about it.
Amen.
That's
Truth.
what I want to leave.
Yep. That was
The whole responsibility. We don't realize how powerful we are. Here's the weirdest thing. We create with our power every single day. I say to friends, do you want to see your power? Let's open you up. Let's look at your unconscious belief systems and your experience. It's a match. You've created it. It's not your fault. It's not because you're supposed to. It's just because that's nature of being a human.
Truth.
But once you see that, you can change it. You can change how you look at it, which I believe everything is about how you see things. Perspective, right? Whether you believe that you are unworthy or worthy, well, it's a matter of perspective. Okay? The whole idea of worthiness, it's absurd. But we have so again, anyway, I could talk about that forever, but I think that was a pretty good conclusion for both of us.
I think so. We could just go on for another hour, though.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Joanna, for having me. I certainly appreciate it, and I'm super
Absolutely.
to have you back in my realm.
I love this, and I hope we do this again because it feels just I love it. And I hope it brings a lot of good information for people. So I will see you soon.
Yeah, you will.
All right.